food and the public importance, this is where the conversation truly happens. This is Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, where we say it as it is. And of course, Daniel is here. Good morning, Mr. Daniel.
Yeah, good morning.
How do you do?
Very well, thank you. How do you do?
Great as well. How was your weekend?
Oh, great. I would say great.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, viewers from all over the world. It promises to be a wonderful week. This is welcome to Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. You do not want to miss today's episode. We have a lot to unpack on today's show. So sit back, relax, and of course, enjoy. Welcome once again to Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Emeka Daniel is my name.
Of course, enjoy the ride. We'll start usually with the papers, and then we get talking about these issues. And, you know, as they say, charity starts at home, and it's not really a good news. And with what we have been seeing around us here, you know, Osun State, the communal crisis between brothers and sisters, actually different communities, but then these are communities that are intertwined, that speak almost the same way. They have been married into each other. They have been living together, you know, for years. And I'm talking about the Ifon, the Lobo, and the Osun crisis. It's not entirely new. It has always been rearing its ugly head. I mean, the crisis there, and majorly, it's majorly over land. It's a land dispute, but then it can always stand. It could always stand as a land dispute, but then it escalates into something fatal, and that is what we are seeing with destruction, wanton destruction of properties. And which has made the state government to, you know, put, before it was a 12-hour curfew, but now it's 24 hours because the situation has called for it. But the question is, irrespective of what the agitations are, is it worth this displacement that everybody, almost everybody in that place have suffered? Many of them have been, you know, fleeing to nearby communities, even here in Oshogbo, not far away from us here, and you see them, you just... and by the way, we must say kudos to the friends and families, relatives, people who just see many of those persons and said, please come in, because I've seen many of them around us here. What you see them with their bags and whatever their properties are, life is very sacred. But then is it worth whatever they are fighting for? Now, no commercial activity can go on in that place. Nobody can even move around, especially for those that are still there. When you see the pictures and the videos, you know, that have been surfacing from that place, it looks like something nobody wants to associate with. Now, for the persons perhaps fanning the embers of these particular crises, what exactly is their gain? These are the questions. Nobody can do anything reasonable in that place.
Absolutely, and innocent lives are being affected. A lot of people
lost
who have nothing.
There are fatalities.
Yeah, a lot of houses. In some reports, we hear that up to 100 houses were razed
on all fronts.
And this reminds us of the Ife Modakeke crisis, the infamous Ife Modakeke crisis. And but thankfully, that was resolved. Let's just hope they do the right thing here. We also understand that the governor has actually also reached out to the president himself, because in cases like this, you cannot do without reaching out to the president. You know, back then during the Ife Modakeke crisis, they had to reach out to the president. Olagunse Oyinlola had to reach out to the president, President Olusegun Obasanjo, and they used their wisdom, and it was resolved.
Yeah,
thankfully, we hope, even though
the president is always the father of the nation, and then he controls the armed forces. So on that front alone, you have to reach out, because the governor anywhere, they just call them the chief security officer, but they don't command any, except the Amotekuns in their place. That's the only people they have access to. But so if you need reinforcement of any of the forces, possibly the army, you know, possibly the area support from the Nigerian Air Force, you need the intervention of Mr. President. And by the way, every territory in Nigeria is under the purview of Mr. President. And this is not what we want to see.
And to the people of that community, how are they coping with a 24-hour curfew? That's another thing.
You mean for those that are still there?
Yes,
because many of them have run away, actually, because they're not sure And it's a very sad thing to always think about the fear of the unknown. You don't know what. Now, you have military men in that place, parading the place, and of course, enforcing security. But then, any scratch on the door, any loud bang outside, even if it's just deflation of tire or tire burst, everybody is agitated.
Yeah, the trauma alone,
the sound,
the psychological
and
trauma.
many persons that have run away. You see landlords, landladies, people living comfortably have run away, and then they go to another places in which they are just given a room. If you are even given a room, you're lucky. Many of them just be given the, what we call passage around here, the corridor for them, because for them, life, and for everybody, life is sacred. Preservation first.
Absolutely.
Before you even think about going to court. We learned the governor has taken many steps. We look into that in the course of the program. Of course, dust is here to settle with the declaration of state of emergency in River State, and the suspension of elected officials in that state. Many persons have been saying their mind on the matter. The erudite Professor Wale Soyinka, spoke his mind. Good luck, Ebele Jonathan, spoke his mind. Many persons, have been speaking their minds on the matter. We learned, a rumor has it, that there was a pipeline gas burst yesterday, but towards the end of the day, the NNPC refuted that. To say, that nothing like that happened. But then, in issues like this, many persons will say, maybe it's an element of damage control. But if there have been gas pipeline vandalization, or nothing has happened, let's just make sure whatever decision we have taken now works for the betterment of the people. Because, and I'm not sure, the dust will settle anytime soon. My opinion on that matter.
And the governor himself, the suspended governor, Siminalayi Fubara, made his first appearance after being suspended on Sunday at a church service at the headquarters of the Salvation Ministry.
Right.
And some people will say, hope he's not just attending the church. Has he been attending church services like that before in that fashion?
Well,
but again,
everybody finds solace in it, isn't it? At a difficult time.
Absolutely. So we wish the people of Rivers all the best.
Actually, we'll go on this quick break. When we return, the papers are in. It's Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Stay with us. Right, we'll start the headline segment from the Punch newspaper. The Punch for today: Naira for crude. Marketers fear price hike as federal government suspends sale to Dangote. Naira for crude. Marketers fear price hike as federal government suspends sale to Dangote. A lot has been happening there, and Nigerians are just holding their breath to see how these will impact the final price to the consumers. Now, there is a rider to that. Ipman slams depot owners for stockpiling product. Federal government, Dangote resume talks today. Please, nothing should be added, in the guise of suffering, more suffering for Nigeria. Whatever this is, it should really be figured out now. And next to that, we have petrol crisis eases in Niger after Nigeria's bailout. It's the show Nigeria's, plays the big brother role that we still play. Because at a point we lent a liter of fuel, that's PMS, in Niger as of last week or last 2 weeks, was around 8,000 naira, because of what is happening around here. But then it is what it is. Two US-based Nigerians accomplices face 62-year jail term for $50 million fraud. Two US-based Nigerians accomplices face 62-year jail for $50 million fraud. And top strip, Atiku Obi comes tackle body judge Shekarau over anti-corruption comments. Atiku Obi comes tackle body judge Shekarau over anti-coalition comments. And just below that, South Governors National Assembly plan to reconcile Fubara and lawmakers. That will be all from the Punch for today.
From the Punch newspaper, we move straight to the Nation newspaper. Rivers emergency declaration. Okwebolo faults Jonathan. Rivers emergency declaration. Okwebolo faults Jonathan. With riders, decision proactive, necessary, says governor, minister. And we also have Fubara at church service. Talking about Okwebolo faulting Jonathan there, former president Goodluck Ebele Jonathan actually made a statement, a strong statement concerning the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, calling it an abuse of office, abuse of power, that if the executive arm of government and the legislative arm of government are doing this, then the judiciary should wake up. He likened it to the case of someone who is pretending to sleep, saying when someone is actually sleeping, it is easy to wake them up. But when someone is pretending to sleep, it's very difficult to wake such a person up. And that was according to Goodluck Jonathan. You can check out the rest of that story in the Nation newspaper. Moving on to other stories in the Nation newspaper this morning. Adeleke threatens to depose Obas of warring Ilobu Ifon communities. Adeleke threatens to depose Obas of warring Ilobu Ifon communities. That's talking about the traditional rulers there because they play very significant roles in the resolution of crisis in times like this. Moving on to other stories on the Nation newspaper. Sale of crude in Naira extension likely as committee meets. Sale of crude in Naira extension likely as committee meets. There's been fears of hike in fuel prices if something is not done. Let's just hope the committee meets and something positive comes out of that. Moving on to other stories. Inspector General warns policemen against unlawful detention. Inspector General warns policemen against unlawful detention. And this is a good one because this cannot be overemphasized in this part of the world. We have a lot of unlawful detentions, flagrant disobedience. I mean, not abiding by the rules of law. But here's the IG warning policemen against unlawful detention. Let's just hope they heed that warning, because there are a lot of people in detention today. They've been there for quite a while without even being charged to court. It's quite unfortunate. Let's just hope we see changes in that regard. Moving on to other stories in the Nation newspaper. Natasha's conduct vindicates Yahaya Bello, says Kogi Senator. Natasha's conduct vindicates Yahaya Bello, says Kogi Senator. You can check out our story on page 5 of the Nation newspaper.
Interesting. The question to ask is, in what way has Yahaya Bello been vindicated? On what?
Well,
that he fought tooth and nail that a woman will not emerge as a senator. What? That's politics.
Perhaps that he's a saint.
Interesting.
So that's him vindicating himself there. People can always say what they want to say.
I had to go to the ladies' village, the suspended Senator Natasha's village, and he dug a gully just because of election. On the eve of the election, and you know what he termed it as? He says it's because of security, because bandits, are using that place for their whatever, and so he had to dig a gully so that the bandits will not be able to come to and fro. That was his reason.
What a genius idea. Imagine that.
And the lady went back with her supporters and covered the gully just before that same election. So it's politics, especially when you're watching from afar, it's quite interesting, actually.
That's petty politics, actually.
Well.
Still on the Nation newspaper, Oshiomhole Oke's highway tolling at kickoff of 125 kilometers Benin Asaba Road. You can also find that in the Nation newspaper. And right there, you see the picture of the founder of Tony Elumelu Foundation, and co-founder, that's his wife, Dr. Awele Elumelu, with Mr. Tony Elumelu himself, at the unveiling of the beneficiaries of the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program. About 3,000 beneficiaries, actually. That's what you have there, right there. Other stories on the Nation newspaper. Pope back at Vatican. Pope back at Vatican. Thankfully, the Pope is healthy. Once again, he's been discharged and he's back at the Vatican. And we say congratulations to the Pope. And we wish him long life, of course, and prosperity. Israel protests Gaza bombings. Israelis protest Gaza bombings. And going to the bottom strip of the Nation newspaper, Indian woman held at airport with 72 parcels of heroin in shock.
Laments failure of Oyon Dam to generate power 48 years after. OBJ laments failure of Oyon Dam to generate power 48 years after. That's when that possibly and obviously could have done better with hydro generation of power. Now, job loss looms as Apapa Port barge operations decline. Job loss looms as Apapa Port barge operations decline. And below that, NDLEA, NDLEA intercepts Indian lady with 72 parcels of heroin in chocolate wraps. What people do for money. And top strip, on icon to political leaders, check your abuse of power. On icon to political leaders, check your abuse of power. Alleges, that's a writer to that, alleges they obtain court judgment to justify wrongdoings. Says citizens must not be silenced amid hardship. Alleges they obtain court's judgment to justify wrongdoings, and says that other citizens must not be silenced amid hardship. That's Bishop, Milo Bishop. Now you can there. And beside that, assets. Top 10 Nigerian banks surge to record 219.46 trillion naira in 9 months. Assets of top 10 Nigerian banks surge to record 219.46 trillion naira in 9 months. And that will be all from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
From the Nigerian Tribune, we move straight to the Guardian newspaper. Drug shortages, uncertainty squeeze HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis clinics nationwide. Drug shortages, uncertainty squeeze HIV/AIDS, TB clinics nationwide with riders. Facilities ration antiretrovirals, cut 6-month supply to 1 or 3 months. HIV response under threat in FCT states, and that's according to NEP1. Federal government pledges 700 billion naira to plunge foreign aid. Supply shortfall. You see all that in the Guardian newspaper this morning. Moving to the top strip of the Guardian newspaper. Adebayo dismisses SDP merger as Lamido urges rebuilding PDP. Adebayo dismisses SDP merger as Lamido urges rebuilding PDP. You see that story on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Presidency says suspension of Fubara others, not power grab, as governor appears in public. Presidency says suspension of Fubara others, not power grab, as governor appears in public. Obasanjo decries Oyo Dam. Oyo Dam, I beg your pardon, neglect. Incessant borehole drillings. I almost said Oyo, so it's Oyo actually. So Obasanjo decries Oyo Dam neglect, incessant borehole drillings. You see that story on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Bakare Ezekwesili proffers solutions to Nigeria's leadership crisis. Bakare Ezekwesili proffers solutions to Nigeria's leadership crisis. You see that story on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. Anxiety in Kano as Bayero Sanusi plan separate Dubai celebrations. Anxiety in Kano as Bayero Sanusi plan separate Dubai celebrations. Concerns over constitutionality of suspension of tenured office holders in Rivers. Concerns over constitutionality of suspension of tenured office holders in Rivers. Nigerians seek good governance, not 2027 distractions. Nigerians seek good governance, not 2027 distractions. That's the editorial on page 16 of the Guardian newspaper. And right there again, you see the picture of the founder and co-founder of Tony Elumelu Foundation. That's Mr. Tony Elumelu and Dr. Awele Elumelu at the unveiling of the beneficiaries of the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program right there. And that'll be all from the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Right. And, you know, you talked about the situation, or you reeled out an headline about the situation in Kano State, about Emir Bayero
and Sanusi.
And Emir Sanusi having different Durbar celebration. You know, the Durbar, it's a festival, actually, where you have people gather, especially after each Salah, to celebrate. And it's a horse riding celebration, horse riding, you know, in which many clans, families, and all of those persons climb the horses, show of strength, and it's quite a celebrated one. So now, the issue here is who commissions the Durbar at this particular time for this year? Because it is the emir in charge that say, oh, you know, how they say it at the Olympics, let the game begin. So now you have the Durbar being planned by the Sanusi, His Eminence Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, and of course Ado Bayero end as well. So when you have two Durbar at the same time in the same kingdom, many persons might say that's a panacea for anarchy.
Yeah, but the last has not been heard of this case. Remember that the court actually stayed the installation of Sanusi. So I don't think
that's the latest that we have seen. You know, it didn't just start with this latest decision of the court. It's something that has been coming, and the emir's Bayero was the 15th emir. Sanusi was the 14th, and now the 16th emir. You know, he was deposed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now he came back again, and it appears like this is a battle royale, Game of Thrones. Now, each of them occupying different palaces, the main palace and then a sub-palace, so to speak. But it's just about the peace. And you know how some of our people up north can be passionate. And their alliance or allegiance to traditional institution is quite fierce. So whoever they support owns the allegiance. Now, when you have two Durbar celebrations being planned in the same kingdom, I think the authority should just rein in at this time, because from festival or festivities, if it degenerates into anarchy, and this is one that you can see the signs. You know, in Nigeria, it's only when you see things that are bound to happen, you just know this thing will happen, and everybody stays off. Because it's dethroned.
Yeah, we just sincerely hope it doesn't degenerate into any crisis. Because as it is, they should obey the ruling of the court.
Cool.
Fine. That's Sanusi himself. Okay. Since the court has said, hold on, he has not been, hold on with the installation. He has not been installed. We know that, see, Sanusi's lifelong ambition is to be emir of Kano.
He has been. He has been ambition. Before he was deposed, he was an emir.
Absolutely. So So it should just be patient, and you should apply wisdom. Yeah, in as much as
if
he
you
wants to
ask
take
me,
his position.
I would say every camp that is on this matter should just obey the rule of law, because there are words, a court ruling that affirmed Sanusi at some point, and the other camp didn't back down. So you see the tit for tat thing that we do in Nigeria. But then, just like you said, everybody, not just Sanusi's end, everybody, the Nigerian police, the state government, the emirs themselves, either the ones that have been affirmed or the one that is agitating, everybody should just follow the rule of law. But that's on one side. We'll go on this quick break. When we return, we speak to issues, and that's what we do here towards enhancing greater Nigeria. Stay with us.